Hey everybody, welcome back to our open office hours. This is episode number 4 of 5 with Jason. I think this is like the most consecutive open office hours we've had with you.
It's amazing.
So that's really fun. But we are continuing our Built on Values series. There are 5 core values that the PaperShift Pro team lives, eats, breathes, sleeps. And Jason is here to talk about our 4th one, which is respect.
Yeah, we've teased this one a bit. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this. We decided we have these core values and it helps us operate internally with each other and helps us figure out how to proceed in difficult situations and when we're making difficult decisions. But we think more and more it's important that folks understand like how we operate and how those values align with them. So we're trying to do a little bit of that through these open office hours. And you're talking about the consistency of the videos. I don't know what I'm gonna in 2 weeks. We have another one, and then 2 weeks after that, like I'm getting in the groove. So that's like another goal of the open office hours was to get us at a good cadence of creating content. And I know like we have things scheduled. Other people come in and we'll run the open office hours, but or present and things. But yeah, maybe this makes it easier for me to get on camera. Sorry, folks, you're gonna see more of me on YouTube. No.
Like mid-September, we actually have a guest coming on. It's not going to be someone from the PaperShift Pro team, which is always exciting to have a guest every now and again. So
I feel like my head is usually here, right? Anyway, okay. Yeah, bring guests. That's good. Yeah, that's another thing. We've maybe done a couple in the past, but or like folks from outside the team. That'd be good to teach some things to folks. So if you can bring up my slideshow, am I presenting it well?
Yes.
Yeah, let's look at these core values. So yeah, this is the 4th one. We're talking about respect. We have respect for each other and our customers. And again, we say like when we were coming up with these core values, the rough process is thinking about the people that we work with internally primarily, but also how we interact with customers. And it's kind of like, what are the key, attributes and people that we love working with? What are the attributes and people we don't like working with? What are like some of these, tough decisions and how we turned? And this is one for sure. People push back and like, isn't this kindergarten stuff that you're just supposed to learn? And this is table stakes. And why do we even have to say this? Like if someone's quote unquote disrespectful, why would we ever hire them? But again, like the devil's in the details and how you think about it. And people have different ideas about it's like respect is a loaded word. I think of like Aretha Franklin, like RESPECT. Find out what it means to me. Like, what does it mean to everyone on the team? And I think like spelling it out like helps us like really understand like what we mean by this. So we're 100%. This is one where like we're borrowing from Montessori in kindergarten, and the way they word it, having due regard for the feelings, wishes, rights, and traditions of others. It's kind of like common respect as like humans. This is related to being human. Like when we're interacting with people, there's a base level of respect that we should have, and that is kind of like the kindergarten aspect. There's also like not listed here, but in Montessori they say like have respect for the materials. So in kindergarten terms, this is like they don't want kids to like take the you know um, the classroom materials and throw them around or tear books. So like this book is meant for reading, not for chewing on. Like in kindergarten stuff. There's analogs of that, kind of in our day-to-day jobs. Like we built SOPs, standard operating procedures to run. Like let's have respect that we said we would do it this way and do it this way. And if there's friction there, it's like we need to update the SOP, not kind of just go off and do it our own way. Or like let's be on the lookout for when we're not following, like we're going off script, so to speak, and be like maybe we have to update the script. That's like one of the materials, like a standard operating procedure. But there's also tools, that we use, software that we use, platforms that we use, and it's like have respect for those tools and use them properly. Like, and we pay money for these things to have them, like use them and kind of don't in general, like do things differently or the hard way. Now, every once in a while, like our team is awesome. They're like, actually, the better way to do this is this new tool that's cheaper, or maybe it's more expensive, or it's different. And then we should talk through that kind of a thing. But we're having respect. And then like how we interact with our customers, being considerate, thoughtful, attentive, and polite. Again, like feels like table stakes, but it especially like we'll get into like how we think about this in terms of support and interacting with customers. I mean, there just are some people who kind of their tone and their temperament leans less towards being considerate, thoughtful, attentive, and polite. And um, I think like it's easy to have like an antagonistic attitude towards customers. Customers are watching this, but we will great. My favorite stories like when people outside work, I'm talking with family, and they're like, "What do you do?" Like the most relatable things that we do is deal with bad customers. And so I have these stories of like people who are overly demanding or confused or having bad days or have kind of really what we find to be crazy websites and things like that. So it's easy to have this like antagonistic attitude towards some customers and like mock them and things. And there are news stories that come out of I think like people were like I, I forget like which company it was. I wouldn't want to say who it was anyway, but they had like internal like nicknames for bad customers and things like that, and they were making fun of them. Um, and we do have one customer whose name we bring up kind of as respectfully as possible. And every time it does, I tell a story like this where it's like we don't like when stuff like this happens, like there's little hints of this internally, like we're griping about customers in our Slack, like we squash it and we say no, we have respect for the customers. And like there's some truth behind people can be difficult, people have crazy demands or things are going weird, but we try to understand them, put ourselves in their shoes, figure out what they're going through, meet them where they are, and kind of help to educate them if they are confused and help to, bring them up to speed. And we also have respect for our team. So sometimes people are like, customers are bad mojo. They're constantly berating the team. They're being racist or otherwise. And we, in certain cases, give them a warning. And then that warning is really firm and we fire customers and stuff like that. So like, hey, we're like maintaining this space where everyone has respect for each other and it goes both ways. So yeah, that is kind of high level, thinking about respect. I have this like I'm sure I brought up how having respect for policies, our leadership team, and like the ideas behind things. We have a relatively flat team. It's smaller, less than 20 people, and there's not like a big hierarchy, but we do avoid like triangulation. That's like a sign of respect. Like we don't want if I say, hey, this is an important thing we should do, we wouldn't want a manager being like, Jason's being crazy. I don't know what he thinks about this thing. You don't actually have to do this. He's going to forget. Don't worry about it. Like that kind of like this is like big company enterprise. People can get lost in these things, but we have a sixth sense for when that kind of stuff is happening on the team, and we squash it immediately. Not kind of like in an authoritarian way, in a way of like, hey, something's happening here. Like there's a disconnect. Let's communicate through this. Let's talk about this. Why did this feel like this was going on? Also, like respect between teams. I'm thinking how one time there's another friction that comes up in business life is like the development team and the marketing team. It's kind of like the marketing team might be like, hey, they said they were going to launch this thing. They haven't launched it yet. I have the email written. It's ready to go. Or like, I have to have the email written, but I can't make screenshots until it's done coded. And like, I'm trying to send it and, development team gets upset. Like someone said in an email that we do this, but we don't actually do this. And now I'm forced last minute to try to figure out if we can do this thing that they said we did. There's kind of friction between the team and the everyday business that we do. And so similar to how like people can try to use humor to like let off steam and like point out like, isn't it funny that like the dev team and the marketing team hate each other? There's like memes and gifs related to it. That's another one where it's like, hey, that's not cool. Like acknowledge that this thing is happening.
I was going to say, for the record, that's not us. I'm pretty close to the dev team. And I mean, I can't speak for the dev team, but I don't think we're pushy from the marketing team perspective.
I think it's not. Yeah, that's him. We don't want to like, You can just imagine, and it's probably true for 100, whenever I'm talking about these bad behaviors, it's people who eventually got let go from the team, that kind of, were how this thing, why we have experience with this kind of thing going on. We have relatively low turnover because we also hire on these values. So I bring that up before. I think I talked about that a lot last time, that when we hire, our interview questions are, meant to try to figure out, is this person respectful in the way that they work, um, let me try to point out like one. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head a question. So I often ask. This is a tip if you're going to do an interview here because you might get it. So I often ask about projects you worked on in the past with other people, and then I dig into that to try to be like, who else was on that team? Like, how big was the team? Who are you reporting to? Was anyone reporting to you? That kind of a thing. And then I kind of pivot towards talking about the project themselves, and I listen to hear if that person like takes all the credit or calls back to the other people on the team. Now, when I said gesture something, when when you're doing an interview, I mean, the mail is like, let me tell this person how awesome I am because I want to get the job. It's about me. But you should know, like, I'm listening, and I try to like dig into it because the the general tone is like, tell me about yourself. But I'm bringing up these other people, and then I see if they forget them or if they talk like my manager was dumb. If they say something like that, it's like you might have had a dumb manager, but now I know that when you have a dumb manager, you talk about them in public this way or something. Or instead of there's more tactful ways to say like my manager was confused about this, and we had to uh, go a different way, and it was hard for me to convince him that this thing was better. So I'm listening like how you're talking about your ex employees that you worked with or other people you worked with in your work history, and trying to feel out, oh, do you work with these other people in a respectful way, because when you're on our team we want you to work with us in a respectful way. I guess I can what is like what isn't respect. And I told Sam before, I'm like, I wish, hopefully I'm rambling through this and I figure out like the better way to convey this idea. Um, so I'm thinking of respect with like when you meet a complete stranger, you have respect for them. Like this is another person, like base level. Let's have respect. I'm gonna be nice to them until proven otherwise. There's a kind of respect, and I love the police or whatever, but like a respect you would have for a police officer because they're authority, or like a teacher, someone who comes in with authority. That's like a kind of fearful respect. That's not what we want. Or like we don't have respect for like your credentials or the school that you went to or the title that you used to have. I mean, these are important things and we're not gonna like make fun of them. But you know what I mean? It's like that's part of your work history. And I guess there is some understanding, like if you went to Harvard, you were at a really, it was hard to get into the school. You're probably smart. You probably did work was harder than usual at other colleges and things like that. So I have an idea of like the hard work you did, but it's not like, oh, I just, respect your opinion on this. Or like you were a marketing director at this big company, did this thing. So now I should just listen to your um to what you have to say about like your ideas on how to do marketing for our business. Like now it's not that you're not allowed to bring up those things, but you're not allowed to like shut down the communication. So it's like that respect doesn't replace having communication about how we're going to operate or how we work. And it's kind of weighed, like you have to represent your position. So it's like if it's not just like, oh, trust me, bro, I did this thing, it's going to work here. It's like, oh, why? Like we'll explain it like we would anyone else, any other idea that comes here. Like it starts with an idea, we write a pitch, and we figure out if we're going to do it. So it's like we're the rest of our team, the kind of respect we're talking about is like have respect for us, explain it to us, let's communicate, let's get on the same page. um is kind of happen. So I think we kind of have some pushback from there's a certain character types that will come to work and they're kind of like, I've done this before, I have the credentials, you have to trust me, it was a bigger company, more money, this thing. And it's like that's cool, that's why you have the experience, and you will have experience and skills and things, but you still have to make your case. You still have to interact with the rest of the team. You kind of can't boss people around. We're not going to just trust that the ways you were working are going to work here on our team. We're kind of we do things our own way here. And I and kind of, yeah, it happens a bit. Sometimes it's kind of like, why aren't you just doing this thing that like other businesses are doing? Like maybe one is like intro pricing. It's like, hey, give like a really big discount the first year, get as many people as possible. Like why aren't we doing that? You're like, oh yeah, that's good. And then we had to kind of figure it out on our own. But there's other things where it's like, why aren't you doing this thing? You're like, you know what? That actually doesn't apply to our business. It's different. It's freemium. We're trying to maximize users over profit, or we have like different goals, and sometimes stuff doesn't apply. So yeah, I think like that word respect sometimes is like respect my authority, and it's like, well, no, like come talk to me, and let's communicate. Let's not have respect in lieu of communication or working together on things. We're talking more about how we interact with folks. Yeah, so maybe I could dig in a little bit to a couple um, ways in practice this comes up. So the core values in general, and I was just talking with a friend who's in a totally different business, and I'll call it out. It's like the funeral business, and they have 5 funeral homes, and they just kind of got in a business relationship with a 6th funeral home. And some of the employees in the original 5 funeral homes are working at the new funeral home, and they have different paperwork, different procedures, different marketing practices. Maybe like the sales team's a little pushier at the new place, and the old sales team is not comfortable being pushy, the folks who are dealing with a funeral. And he's talking with me, trying to get business advice, like how do you deal with that situation. I was like, oh, that doesn't sound like just like a procedural issue. It sounds like a values issue. Like your team and their team have different values, and you have to kind of get on. If you're going to work together, you have to get similar values. And he's like, yeah, we have values. And you're like, but are they written down? Are they enshrined? Are they taught? Are they reiterated and brought up and reinforced? Because if they're not, you can't point to them in those sticky situations. So here are some examples in our own business of like sticky situations where you know we're like, hey, we kind of call out in daily work like, oh yeah, our value is respect, and that gives us like time to do this. So one I kind of talked about was around SOPs, so standard operating procedures, and we use a tool called Gitbook, and it's like basically just like a giant wiki style doc that has per team and a bunch anytime you kind of do a checklist type item, it's like do this. And there's even some things in there with when a new ticket is opened, reply this way: thank you for being a PM Pro Plus member. I don't remember off the top of my head. I don't do support enough. It's kind of like a standard reply. And then sometimes folks will ad lib, and they're kind of like, oh, I kind of tend to do this. Like if I was on another ticket with them, I don't say that again. I just do this thing. And I should see how this is being reinforced, but we've definitely had conversations about it. It's like in practice, like we wrote that SOP and came up with the idea to have a standard reply for good reasons. It makes the customer feel comfortable. It's like repeated, so it's like, oh, like they feel confident that it's not just it feels less random. It's like, oh, like they're sitting down to do my thing, even if it's like repetitive. And then there's case studies of like whenever you go to a restaurant, they always ask you like, have you been here before? And then if you say no, then they have to tell you about like how they do things. That's like just proven business practices to like make people feel comfortable, and they usually have some kind of like special promotion or deal that they're telling you and stuff like that. So we're not upselling and support, but it's a similar base. Like this is good standard practice. We came up with this idea. So when we notice people aren't following the SOP like that, it's kind of like you have to have like respect for the SOP. Like we wrote it for a reason. And like I said, if you go off script, then you kind of let's have a conversation. And we have around that, because then a really good comeback to that is like, oh yeah, but we have this value of being human. And if we are always copy and pasting the same intro, it sounds robotic. It doesn't sound human. It's like I'm, Sam or Jason replying to a ticket. And if I literally just reply, like sometimes the ticket, you're working multiple tickets and it's like 10 minutes back and forth. It almost feels like real-time chat. You're like, it feels silly to like go back to the beginning, like, hey, thanks for being a PM Pro member, but I think we had a discussion on that, and I'm pretty sure we landed with like just do it anyway. Like it's kind of like there's other opportunities to be human. Like we keep your face there, we sign off with your name. You know, after the intro, you can say whatever you want, but the intro is kind of like this really important thing that makes people feel centered and at home when they open a new ticket. And reinforces like each thing. So yeah, like we have this conversation, the values come up, and that's how we figure out something that feels subjective. And it is honestly like, how do we reply to tickets when they open? We use our values to reinforce, you know, how we figure that out. And there's also, you know, SOPs around how to work. I think I brought up, you know, our daily stand-ups. So and we have meetings, like, so there's some of these kind of flukes of how we do remote work, and maybe they're interesting to folks. So um in what's called like the agile space, we don't use agile, but that's a framework for product management or management, and excuse me, like, yeah, product management, like development. And they have the concept of they have a concept of a stand up, and their version is like a phone call every morning. The whole team is on for like a half hour or so, and you say like, "What are you doing? What have you done? Is anything, you know, are you stuck on anything? You need to be unblocked." And a lot of times the stand up is done as like a live phone call. We don't do the live phone call. We do what we call asynchronous stand ups, and the way they work is in Slack, which is a chat app, around 8 a.m. Eastern time, like a new thread will be created. And the idea is that for the next hour, um, folks are kind of at their desk. We ask for this overlap from like 8 to 10. It shifts depending on daylight savings, right? So it's like kind of 8, you know, it's like 8 to 11 or 9 to 11, 8 to 10,
And the
something like that.
team too.
Yeah.
The
What's that?
based on the team, because like the sales
Oh
team
yeah.
stand up is at like 7 a.m. or something, but the
Okay.
overlap I have with that team is a little bit later in the day.
Okay.
So, like, you
Yeah.
know, it's dependent on team and time zone, because we do have people like in South Africa
Yeah.
and all over. So
Yeah, and yeah, so there's like a little bit of wiggle room per team or their staff, but the general idea is there's 2 hours every day where the people who work together will be online. Because like if you're in South Africa, it's the end of your day, and if you're in the United States, it's the beginning of your day. And it's like, hey, let's try it. We work remote and we set our own hours in many ways, but like let's be together for 2 hours. And the first hour is like you should be at your desk and ready. Like people over the course of that 2 hours, you should post your stand up, which is the same questions. It's like, what have you done? What are you doing? Are you blocked on anything? And then you should be able to have like a real time discussion if needed. So sometimes, like, I have a question, you generally know, like most, unless they have a meeting or something came up, um, you know, most people are at their desk and able to answer that question through the chat if needed. And then if you have to get on a call, because it's like this is subtle, or just I'd rather see your face and talk through it, then we get on the call and talk through it. But then over the course of 2 hours, and then the manager comes in and, you know, replies within that time to all the stand-ups. And it's like kind of roughly how these asynchronous stand-ups work. And it's pretty neat. Like for remote teams, I recommend it to some folks who are struggling with like the call feels really oppressive every day. We have to be on the phone call, and especially folks, um, we talk like our value of being human. We want your camera on and to see your face, because like if you talk to an icon or like a screenshot of you, it doesn't feel the same way. So it's like, yeah, but you know, that means I have to like shower and do my hair and maybe put on makeup or get dressed appropriately. And it's like, um, so it's like the asynchronous, like, hey, we can do it in chat. Like we have respect for each other. We can kind of get our questions answered in chat. We don't have to be on the phone call. It's a little bit easier for folks to do and kind of multitask in that time, and have sometimes the conversation. Well, they wait to the end of the stand up in a traditional stand up, and it's like, hey, let's have a sideboard or whatever, you know, keep talking. But like people, you know, kind of find each other in chat. Anyway, there's an SOP on this. It's written up on how to do it. It's slightly different per team, and it's like, if folks aren't doing this, it's like that's one where it comes to like, hey, have respect for SOP. We do this for a reason. There's a lot of thought that went into like why we do it this way. And in the moment, you could be like, I'm a small team. I'm just, and it feels weird. Like, why do I have to post my stand up? I'm actually, because I had this other important customer call, and both the people on this team were on the call. So like, what's the point? And there's other points that stand up. I, as the business owner, and Kim, and like sometimes Andrew on our team, who's kind of like operating at a higher level, we like check in on the stand-ups, and this is how we like get a pulse for what's happening in the company. So it's like there's a bigger audience to your stand-up, so it's kind of like it's really good if possible, like, you know, unless an extraordinary circumstance, like you're on an offsite, you know, you have a customer call for that whole 2-hour period or something, but it's like every day you're working, like get in there and post something so that I and the other managers can get in and see what's going on.
It was really weird when Kim was on sabbatical and I was the only one posting marketing stand-ups. Like, because she didn't even, like, when she was on sabbatical, she didn't have anything. Like, she was
talking to
off
yourself.
the grid. And I was literally talking to myself for, what, 6 weeks?
Yeah. Does it, some people find that helps them organize and like feel like, hey, I accomplished something. It's like a log of what I did. Or does it feel like busy work for the most part?
It felt pretty good because it was like, oh, here's what I was actually able to, like, here's my goal, here's what I was able to accomplish, just like it is now.
Yeah.
And then there were things where I would like post in that channel. And by posting in that channel, I end up then working through the problem myself. Whereas before I posted, I was sitting there and I'm like just roadblocked. But then like as soon as I typed it out and like got it out of my brain.
Put it in better words. Yeah.
Yeah. I was able to like work through my own problems. So I don't think it was busy work. Like it made sense. And then Kim was able to, if she wanted to read everything when she came back, she would know exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure
everything,
I was checking in there. Yeah.
I guess it's called the teddy bear effect. I haven't heard of that.
Okay. That's a new one for me. We call it like rubber ducking or like something Batman. Like there's something Batman. Yeah, this reminds me too, like kind of buried in this value of respect is a related value of honesty. And so like those are on different ends of the same situation. So in the context of a stand-up, you know, the purpose of the stand-up is to unstuck people. If you have an issue, like get your issue for you, like you said, to kind of help you keep track of what you're doing on your own, to help your managers see what you're doing so they have a pulse, give you that space to talk about things if you have to. These are all the reasons. One of the reasons not for the stand-up, there is this reason, like we work remote and forcing people to check in makes it less likely for people to disappear. This is like it's like you know, with early and remote work and hiring people, especially part-time and stuff, you kind of like they show up and then like they kind of disappear for a few days and you're like, where is that person? And then they show up, and we don't have an office space. There's no shared office space, so you don't have people kind of walk in the office and you're like, I know so-and-so is at work, they just were heads down on something, you know, like if you don't talk in the Slack, we don't even know you're there. We don't know you're quote unquote at work. So there is this like check-in aspect of the stand-up that is under there. But at the same time, like we do trust that you're working like you say you would. And the stand-up helps facilitate it. And I think there's some cases, there's also like kind of like PTO. I think someone offered to like send us a doctor's note on like a day off. And it's like, no, like you told us you had to go to the doctor. We trust you. It's not like a school. It's just like the flip side of respect. It's like we respect you. We give you responsibility, and we trust that you're gonna, you know, that everyone's like being honest and stuff like that. So it's kind of value. We have these like hidden values in there, and honesty is one of them that's like related to being open, to trust, to being responsible, to being human. It kind of floats around, and it didn't, you know, land as a separate value, but it's in there. Yeah, no, so okay, another case where this value of respect comes up in practice that's maybe interesting is like in coding, respect for the people who program this. So we have the first bit of code in Paid Masters Pro, like the oldest code is from like 2007, probably 2008. It's old and it's terrible. And I think I talked about this before. In coding, we're constantly growing as coders, and as soon as we ship something, we're like, I don't like that code. I would do it totally different. I learned in the process, and I would do it different. And we don't refactor for no reason. So we're not just kind of changing code over time, because that's not purposeful work. That was an earlier value we talked about. So I can't just be like, ooh, I hate my code. I just change it so I don't hate your code. And that's like a goal that isn't going to happen. You're always going to look at old code and feel weird. Um, but this comes up a lot. There's a bug, and then you look at the old code, and it's probably just like if it's 5+ years old or even more recent. It's kind of like, or someone else wrote it. You could like one just have like a subjective, like, I don't like this code. I don't like this pattern they use. I don't like the way it looks. I see what this method is trying to do. I would do it totally differently. Um, but that even in the details, it's kind of like, why did, so you ask yourself, like, why did they even do it this way? So when we ask that, it's sometimes a rhetorical question, and it's like, let's turn it into an honest question because we respect the people who wrote it, probably me, or like me, literally me a lot of times, or like I don't know, just people who've been on the team for a while. Sometimes it's your own code, and you're like, why did I do it that way? It's like uh, it it keeps you from like causing other bugs because what happens when you don't have this sense? You see like here's a function that changes membership levels is like there's a function in there, and it's one of the most complicated pieces of code in the system. It's really important too. We're having talks about refactoring it now for 4.0, I guess, right? Um, but if there's a bug in there, what would happen is you'd be like, "Oh, I don't like the way that works. I'm gonna code it better because maybe it's even your own code or someone else uses it. I know I can code it better. I can do it better. I'll recode the whole thing. I'll like the way it works, and I'll ship it." But if you do that, then you kind of break things and you find out all the reasons they coded it the way they coded it. So a lot of times, like having like a robust platform of code that is, almost 20 years old and still works requires like handling edge cases and just accounting for all the different configurations that a WordPress site and compatibility with other plugins. There's tons of things. Or the way it's a membership platform that's used. We have like 6 or 7 or 8 use cases. People use it for all kinds of things. um it's like, is it paid or not paid? And you're like, oh, if it's a free level, there's no subscription. That it's like a weird case. That's why it's done this way, and why it had to be broken out, why it had to be done this way. So it's not, we don't just blanket respect the old code and be like, "Yeah, oh, it must be obviously good because Jason coded it." No, it's probably bad even if Jason coded it. But we respect that when Jason coded it, he did it for a reason. He had reasons for why he coded it the way he did. Um, and sometimes not. Sometimes you're like, oh, they were copying a pattern from another plugin or an example, which, I guess it's reasons, but sometimes it's not like the best, like that there sometimes there wasn't thought. They're like, why did they do it this way? It's like, I don't know. It's the first thing that came to mind and it works. So it is okay to change it. But sometimes it's good. Like if people are still around on the team, ask them like, why did you do it this way? And if we can remember or try to think about it a little bit, you discover like, oh, I get it. Yeah. It seems like a longer query, but it's more performant that way. Or, it seems like this is overly verbose, but it actually, like in history, used to do more. Like there was code in here that got taken out. So like that's like a something that comes up, and it's kind of like, this could be written tighter. And you're like, well, in a previous iteration, there used to be a lot more code that's not there anymore and it's not needed. But and anyway, so it's like having a little bit of curiosity for literally why was it coded this way, and honestly asking that question is respect for the people who coded it before you. And that saves us from a certain kind of bug where we're like rewriting code because we don't respect what's already there, and then you find out like, oh yeah, this is why they had it coded that way, and you kind of reintroduce these old bugs that were fixed before. um yeah, so I think we can do a little bit of like a support demo. And talk a little bit about the specifics and support. So you know interacting with customers is probably the most clear, like that kindergarten version of respect. Like we want our team to, you know, be nice and polite, um, and help folks. We also, um, it's important for us to have some, what's the word? Um, like give priority to issues that are more important than others, or like folks who, are asking us every little question, you know, um, it's like maybe have respect for the other customers and not like go down a rabbit hole with one customer and spend all our time with them, but like spread it. So this idea of how we prioritize support, we should have some urgency with certain issues. It's like if your website is down, it's like we want to take that seriously. And so some of these questions come up in how we prioritize support. So not just like always be nice and try to solve the everyone's issues as much as possible. I think I've talked before, but this comes at just part of being respectful too, is we take ownership of the issue. So there's constantly like, I'm having a 500 issue. It means my web server is running out of, resources. And you're like, well, that sounds like it could be an issue with your host. And maybe you should go to paidmembershipspro.com/hosting and apply for our own hosting, where we can help give you a performant platform like the one we use for our own site. But but our answer shouldn't actually literally be change your host. Like, it's we want to take responsibility for it too. And in that case of a 500 issue, like, okay, your server's running out of resources. That kind of could be a server issue. Your server doesn't have enough resources. It could be a software issue because it's running out of resources because PaidMembership Pro is stuck in a loop and using more memory or more resources than it's supposed to. Also, like, it could be literally like, and this is part of debugging. It's like, I'm on a site, it only has PaidMemberships Pro, no other plugin, and it does this thing. And you're like, yeah, but which theme, and are you using a builder? Like WordPress, you could have a bunch of different plugins. And sometimes it's subtle, like the issue is an integration issue. It's like both of our plugins are trying to do something, and that's why it's breaking. So like one case that comes up all the time is like redirect issues. I always say every plugin in your theme, and probably your host as well, has custom code like trying to redirect, requests on your website from one page to another. Where do you redirect when you log in? Where do you redirect when you log out, when you check out, when you hit certain pages, or you have affiliate systems that want to redirect certain URLs? And so that code often, like, it's hard to get that code to work without stumbling into other things. It's kind of like, why aren't you, PaidMembership Pro says it should be redirecting this way, but it's not. And it could be because you have other code on your site that's kind of hooking into the redirect logic and adjusting it. It's like a hard thing for us to get to coordinate with other plugins. Anyway, when we see those issues, we don't just say, hey, go to that other plugin, go back to your host. Sometimes it's like the fastest way is to ask your host, and here's how you can respectfully ask them and hopefully get some help. But we also look into it and we take responsibility for it, and we try to solve issues, even if it's not our own code, because like you guys are our customers and we want to help you anyway. And it's kind of, we understand that like we're often like the smartest WordPress people that and so you're coming to us for questions. Like, we have the answers, let's give them to you. And so we don't, our support isn't, hopefully, and like call us out when this is happening, it shouldn't be happening, isn't kind of trying to close the ticket as fast as possible by saying that someone else's thing, you should go somewhere else to get help. Like, we actually try to solve it. Now, sometimes it's kind of like we don't have the tools or visibility or information to solve this, like this other plugin does, or that your host does, and we try to like handle that situation with care. I'm talking, but I also went into demo kind of like, so we're prioritizing tickets, and this is like a back-end view of how our support agents view our premium paid support tickets. And they kind of, so they click this button, it says get next ticket, and it gets the oldest ticket, basically, that's been submitted. We try to reply within 1 business day, Monday through Friday. So, clicking this will get the oldest ticket. I think there's some logic in there too. Like, it's not necessarily the oldest ticket. It's kind of, if someone's a brand new user, like they just paid on the site, or this is their first ticket ever, we prioritize those highly. So, those are more likely to get served a little sooner. We have standard plans and plus plans, and one of the benefits of upgrading the plus is you get priority support, so that's taken into account. So we like kind of generally will take a plus ticket before a standard ticket, but we're still trying to not let the standard ticket go longer than a day. I don't know what we call this anymore in the SOPs, but we would have folks who are quote unquote support ninjas, is a term some folks have, where it's, hey, go through the tickets and look for like really quick, easy tickets that can be responded to. So it's like, it's not respectful if you're waiting for an answer to your really quick question because someone else had like a mind bender that's going to take us 4 hours to work on. So we the SOP is pretty complicated, but there's a heuristic, and it's literally coded into this like get next ticket button. I'm not going to click because then you'll see like a real customer's ticket. That it's kind of complicated logic that we work through that like manage all these priorities and make sure that we're being as respectful as possible to our customers, both like answering as quickly as possible for everyone, but then also like if someone's a squeaky wheel and we're answering tickets all the time, they get deprioritized. They just do. And then if someone has like my website is down, like we prioritize that higher. And we try to do our best in that sense. Yeah. And
Account
then
related tickets also get escalated to being handled a little bit faster too.
Yeah, like if you kind of a billing issue gets routed to the person who handles billing. As we are launching like our own PM Pro hosting, there's like a hosting option when you select a ticket. And those get routed, to like a sysadmin so that we, they're better able to help you. Things like that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it helps to understand. So like there's open tickets is like when they're just open, but you haven't our agents haven't responded. And then when we take a ticket and we respond, it becomes a quote unquote active ticket. So there's one agent who's responsible for that ticket. And so, like sometimes that ticket gets escalated. It's like, I need to talk to a developer or I need to, like, there's a sysadmin who's helping to figure things out. Maybe there's a team of developers, like there's a bunch of people. There's still one person who's like assigned to that ticket, excuse me, and responsible to make sure that like it doesn't get lost, that we reply every day. Our rules say like we should be replying to every ticket at least once a day. So I mean, most tickets get resolved right away. It's kind of like one reply and done. And it's a little bit like a half-life. So it's like 50% of tickets just get resolved right away. One reply, 50%, it'll take like a couple replies. And then 50% of those takes a couple more days. There's more back and forth. For those tickets that end up taking like multiple days, it's kind of like if the ticket is I'm looking into that, I'll let you know. Like we're gonna get back within at least one day. So when people kind of give status updates. And then pending tickets after folks reply, like if our team replies and we're waiting on a customer reply, that's called pending. And then escalated is like when we're pulling like a developer or like a business owner into a situation that's tricky. I don't know if like the business ones count as escalated. Like if you're getting asking about a billing issue or something.
No.
Then they get closed. Yeah. I don't know. So you can think, I guess it's like, I don't know, like we're peeling back the curtain a little bit here. I don't know if folks can kind of like, we don't show the status on the customer end. It's like open or closed, but inside we have like difference of like active, pending, and escalated, which is this is kind of standard stuff and help support systems to help us keep track of like, are we waiting on you or are you waiting on us? We also have like automated systems that every so often kind of like maybe you've seen it if you've used our support a lot, like after a week or two, like you'll get like the little, I don't know if we label as PM Pro bot anymore. It's funny, I'm like out of the loop, but you'll get an automated message that is like, hey, it's been like a week. We were waiting on a reply. Like, is this still an issue? Like update us, let us know. And I think that used to be PM Pro bot. And now even though it's like a automated or quasi-automated issue, it's like it comes from the human so that, it feels more personable. Yeah, so I'm click. This is a sample ticket, which is closed, but I'll show a little bit of kind of like behind the scenes what it looks like. We get the dump of everything they asked for, and then here's Kim White on our support team, kind of pretending to reply. But I can hand wave over some of these things. So this is, like I said, those statuses we keep track of, and they automatic. Our team is allowed to search the forums. I mean, if you're an old timer PM Pro, our support system used to be public and open. It was more like a support forum. And then folks were using that search to get answers. And when we closed the forum and then we set the expectation, like, hey, when you open a ticket, it's private and everyone can see it, just our team. It made it easier for us. Like we're getting sensitive information from customers and we can handle sometimes when we like it happens in the community forums. So like the open support forums is the community forums now. So go to the Slack, paidmembershippro.com/Slack, get in there for free and chat with your fellow PM Pro users. Sometimes folks would ask a question and then someone else in the community would answer. And like we didn't have control over that experience, and it was like maybe they gave them the wrong answer or not the best answer. Sometimes they gave them a good answer, but it was like we wanted, people were paying for this support. We wanted it to be as good as possible. And as we started hiring more support agents and training them up, we wanted folks to interact with our paid trained support people. Anyway, but it was a common request, like, can I search old tickets? And we don't allow it. The team does it because they search for things and they filter it. But what's in reality, these old tickets, like if you, how do I do this in 2018? It's not the same way as how you would do in 2025. Like a lot of times it's like, here's a code gist that probably doesn't work. There's actually an add-on for it. There's a third-party service we use now. So it's like the answers get out of date. And what we told folks is, if you ever sense that the customer wanted to search for something, or like you had to search for something in the forums, that's like a really good indicator that we should have a public doc for that. So it's still there. Like our team searches the forums. They're often like, is this a common issue? Are other people having this? And sometimes it's like, did anyone else have an answer for this? And our team's trained to kind of read those answers with a grain of salt because they might be out of date. But whenever they do that, it's like, oh, maybe this should be like a public documentation and the whole team should get trained on it. And we should have maybe Derek in this case didn't even have to answer the issue because we'd have better docs about this. Search gist, this is interesting. So like this search, goes to gist.github.com, which we're using to share a lot of our gists, and it includes like everyone on our team. So then this shows us gist, but only from people on our team. And so that's useful for searching for code snippets. And again, that's another one too, where like a lot of those are public. Actually, all of them are public to come up in the search. But in reality, like it should be a snippet if it's like for public consumption. Like sometimes the gist is just for one site. And if like other people should use this, we have a whole process for like, get the dev team involved, review the snippet, make sure that it's, generalized and as good as possible and has good like notes for how it might have to be tweaked. And then kind of make an official snippet version and then write an official tooltip blog post about it. So the gist we kind of keep internally, although it's a public website, so you could kind of like reverse engineer how to search for snippets from the PM Pro team or gist at gist.github. But the snippets is, the ones that are officially like on our website. And that search is the our repository. So, and this is public. So GitHub/Stranger Studio/PM Pro snippets library. Is like the GitHub version of this, and then should be like a tag on our website on our blog, right? Or a category.
Category/recipes. It's also linked in the community tab right there in the menu.
Cool. Hey, great.
Code recipes.
Code recipes.
And I also put that link in chat. The code recipes.
Okay. Link. Sweet. Yeah. So category/recipes under here, community code recipes. These are like there's a system. I guess we post like a blog post about these, and then the code gist the snippet gets embedded. And this is kind of managed on like the GitHub. So if you're a developer and you're like, hey, just show me the code and let me browse around and I know how to search code on GitHub, there's an open GitHub repo about it. On our website has like more of the context and help and documentation around it, and the snippet, embedded into those blog posts in the code recipe section.
And with the code recipes, we actually do use Limit Post Views add-on on our site for free members to get one premium code recipe a month. But if you do hold a premium plan like our standard or plus, then you get access to all of the code recipes without limiting per month.
Sweet. Yeah, and it's always like, if you know what you need and like you can't gain access to it, you can email our team and we will send you stuff. The general idea behind requiring a paid membership for these premium code snippets is that it's usually very likely that you need help with it. And so that's how our thought between free code recipes and like the premium recipes. The free code recipes are usually a little more straightforward, a little more copy and paste. They do one thing. The premium recipes are like, there's like some thought, like you maybe have to understand how the code's working a little bit more to confirm that it's working. So you're more likely to run into issues or be like, I want this recipe, but And that's the stuff we help in our premium support. But if we make it as easy, whenever we make it easier for folks to access these things for free, our free sales channels get bombarded with questions, and then we're forwarding people, like, you have to pay for it. And there's, you know, there's like extra time and friction in like getting the help that you really want. Whereas if you pay, you see the snippet, and then you can ask our support team, because you have access to the paid support team, to get the version that you need.
And our Coding with Sam series that I do does code the premium code recipes. So that kind of does explain what Jason was saying about, like, there's might be a little more customization. You have to code it a little bit yourself, and I teach you how to do that.
Yep, that's awesome. Coding with Sam. It's on the same YouTube channel. Sign up for that. I just realized I have like an outro script, and like at the end of this call, I should just like do it, right? To me,
you should do it.
Yeah, I don't remember where we wrote that. Is that just in Slack?
I don't know.
I sure came prepared. We're going to record it and try to have them automatically added, but I was like, I could just swing it. Maybe I'll just swing it. Anyway, looking at Derek. Yeah. Oh, so like some other things. So, I mean, maybe I'm like digging in too much to this, but we keep track of the information, the site login details. So we have a system for people to share their login details in this form, and that automatically deletes them when the ticket is closed, so that we're not like saving around your login details. Site health is a feature of or WordPress that Payress Pro hooks into, and it kind of gives us a dump of like most of the information. So we're less likely to need to log into your site, and we kind of can just see like how you're configured, and that helps us answer questions. And we take notes. We do keep track, like user notes. We talk about, like, hey, that sometimes your name's not on your account. We learn your name. It's like, this is their name, and we write, here's the kind of site they're doing. I help them with this. They struggle with this. Oh, there's like, up here, maybe we have this where both, when you submit a ticket, we ask you what your WordPress experience is. And then I forget where we set this. I think I don't know if I'm looking at Derek, there's a way for us to write their experience. Oh, I'm missing it. Maybe it's only when the ticket is open or something. Oh no, this is the self. This is what they said. What's your word? Okay, this is what the customer says their WordPress experience and developer experience is. I thought we also kept track internally, but maybe we just put it in the user info. So sometimes there's a discrepancy here where folks are like, I'm an expert. And then we're like, I don't think they're an expert. We'll put that in here, like, so we keep track. But when we, until proven otherwise, we respect what you put there. And that's actually really important, like, to be honest about it. It's like beginner, intermediate, expert. I forget like how many levels we have. We look at that and we use that to answer your question. If you're a beginner, we're going to take a little bit more time. We're going to slow down. We're going to link to more resources. We're not going to assume that you understand how WordPress or PHP or JavaScript works. If you put expert, we're going to be like, all right, cool. I'm talking to another developer, blah, blah, blah. Look into this new thing. And we're going to be like more concise, but we're going to go like deeper on the technicals. So it's kind of, whatever you put there, we use it. But when we kind of find out like, oh, they don't actually know how to use PHP, or maybe like, they were being timid. I think probably sometimes we have user notes like they say beginner, but they're not. We'll do that. And then recent tickets, we look at this. We're actually working on tooling to like add AI generated summaries of your recent tickets. So when we answer ticket, when like Derek posts something, we're trained to like go down before we start replying to look here at like, what else are they asking? So sometimes like they literally have asked the same question multiple times, something like that. Really, I don't know, like maybe they're being impatient, or like different variations, or like my site is down. And then they, instead of like replying to that ticket, they open another ticket. Like, I got more info about my site being down. So sometimes it's kind of like there's duplicate tickets and we manage it. But other times it's, just, it's good to know, oh, they have other open tickets with this other support agent. I'm going to route this to the person they're already working with. So we do that. So we try to, as much as possible, have the same people following up with you. I mean, it's a smaller team, and like sometimes people are on or not on. And so you kind of like whoever's actually doing support that day is who you're most likely to get. But we will try to, like, if Kim White answered your other ticket and she's available, we'll assign this one to Kim White. So she's like familiar with your site. She's going to follow up. You don't have to like retrain her on like the backstory. And also the team reads those tickets, and we're working on a tooling actually to make it easier for them to get like the summarized view of it, so that they know like the history of like what really stinks for customers is a couple of things. One, if like you have to keep explaining to a different support agent like what's going on, it's like, hey, just keep the same person. Or if you kind of like, there's like I had this issue, we fixed it, but then that led to this next issue, we fixed it. Then that led to this next issue, we fixed it. Sometimes like there's a story in like across the tickets, and we can see that in your recent tickets. And then our team should notice, oh, they weren't just trying to do this one piece. They're actually trying to do this bigger thing. And we can be a little bit more comprehensive about how we're helping and look ahead and stuff like that. So that's an important part of how we're prioritizing. But yeah, that's a little bit of a look at how our support system works and how we're prioritizing work to make sure that we answer your questions as fast as possible, because that's respectful. Oh man, we're going on. Another thing to talk about, unless folks have questions about any of this.
Not yet.
Or if you have thoughts, Sam. So another topic around respect, and I'll try to wrap it up with this, is so I've been talking about how we interact with our users and our customers. We also think about what we call our users, and we respect those folks as well. And that comes up in a couple ways. So when we're building the software, we're thinking about our users and how they're going to interact with the software from the front end. And we, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, like don't want to build software that makes it easy for folks to scam the end user, right? So there's definitely kind of gray hat line, different, restrictions per region and, culturally, like how people, do you ask for a username and password at checkout or just an email and generate the password? People have differences of opinion of like what it means to register and stuff like that. But when we're trying to figure that out, we're thinking about what does the end user want and how do we make it by default honest for them? And we don't make it easy for folks to scam people with their software. It's just a reality of what happens on the internet is people, we want like the pricing to be transparent. So it's something like there's like a quirk of PayMasters Pro. Sometimes we write into like English, it gets translated to $25 now and then $25 per month. And it's like a mouthful. And there are tools. We have like the level. We have an add-on. What's it called? Like the level text description.
Level cost text or
level cost. Yeah, cost level text. Level cost text add-on. So you can customize how that shows up and make it just 25/MO.
Now I'm gonna look it up to see which way the words go.
Level cost text add-on. We'll link that one up. But when we're developing, like the default is to be verbose and clear, because that's what the end user wants. And like you can set up your levels in a bunch of different ways, and we kind of programmed it so it's less likely to be misleading. And that's actually tough. We have a whole gateway that for technical reasons, the price that we show on our confirmation page, we can't get it to match the price on when you go to pay at the gateway. Like it forgets about the subscription. I think this is kind of true of Stripe. So if you have a Stripe, it's $25 per month. Sometimes, depending on how people are set up, when you go to the Stripe checkout, it'll say $25, and it kind of doesn't mention the monthly fee. I think that you could kind of like configure it if you're configuring like your trial and you have tiers or something like that, or it's not. But we like embed stuff into the description to make it more clear. And there's this other gateway where it was like even more misleading. It's kind of like as soon as what we want to make sure is like when they click that button to charge a credit card, the like amount that shows up on their statement is the amount that they just got quoted, right? And that's not really the gateway's fault. It's like technology, but we're like, that's the stuff we're thinking about. Like we respect that end-to-end user. Like when they click the button to check out, like their credit card should get charged the amount, that they last saw on the confirmation page. And it sounds like such a simple, obvious thing, but you'd be surprised at how hard that is technically to do in certain cases. Other things like cancellation. So we make our cancellation page like pretty straightforward to be like a click and there's like a confirmation so you don't accidentally, but then you one click and cancel. And there is legislation that I think I mean, it's the way, this kind of legislation or regulation and legislation is going in the US. It's called like one click to cancel or click to cancel. And the general idea is like, it should be as easy to cancel as it is to sign up. And I feel like that law was passed, but then it's getting blocked, and it's not like it's in like this limbo state where they don't have clear regulation from it yet. But people are like, oh, should I be worried about this? And it's like, well, that's just been our belief since day one. It was like, let's make our cancellation page as easy as possible. And even though we have another add-on called reason for canceling, and it adds a text box. And like, so it's like optional, I think, or you have to put something there, but it doesn't, like force people to, you can put ... enter. Like it's only on one page. We made it like as non-onerous as possible, even though like adding a reason for canceling is really important. Like once, sometimes it just slows people down, gets them to think, and they realize, hey, I actually don't have to cancel. I can use their tools, or there's some other way I can do this. You can put text on the cancellation page to like help guide people on making a good decision about cancel. Like, hey, don't cancel, you could downgrade. Don't cancel, you could switch to the free plan or something, which is effectively canceling. But like, I don't know, like you can put language on there, but we basically want it like one page, and like it and a confirmation, and you're done. Like we don't want it multiple steps and these dark patterns of like the button to cancel looks like a disabled button, and the button to continue is like a bright orange button. Like, so these dark patterns we don't build into our site. And it's WordPress, so you can do it, but we're not going to make it easy for you, stuff like that.
I recently canceled a subscription with a company, and their buttons almost got me, because it was like, I thought like the bright button.
I've seen when they switch it in the middle, like, are you sure you want to cancel? Yes. And then the next page, like they rephrase it differently. It's like we have these referendums sometimes when we vote, and sometimes you can't understand what they're asking. There's so many double negatives in it. Like, are you sure that you don't want to maybe possibly continue to stop? And you're like, I don't know. Like, what am I supposed to do? And yeah, some of them are so bad. So our default is going to be good. Like, I mean, it's WordPress, so you can change it. And we're not going to have like, here's like the one click gist that, helps you to scam your customers. Another one that's important, like it kind of took us too long to do this, and it's a technical challenge for different gateways, but we, built in now is like reminders when the payment reminders. Subs table fixes this. That's a shirt we have. Like, now that we have our own subscriptions table, we keep track. We know when the subscription is going to renew more accurately. We can send an email from WordPress 7 days before, and you can tweak that to be different, and you can tweak the content of those emails. But it's like, hey, you're going to get charged, and it's good practice. I think you don't want a lot of refunds and chargebacks. Your gateway will potentially close your account because of it, or there's other ways that they can, like force you into higher fees or different tiers, or kind of give you warnings and things. When you pay, you get, whenever if someone pays and then they refund, you have to pay the fees. Usually you don't get the fees back. And so it's like, if you're running an honest business, like, I think it's sad, like some folks do run a kind of business where like part of the model is that people forget to cancel, even though they're not getting value from the service. And that's not how we operate. That's not how we want people using our software to operate. We're not going to make the defaults make it easy for that to happen. So we have things like payment reminders built in and stuff like that. But so that's, we try to build the defaults of the system for checkouts, cancellations, how prices are shown, email reminders, things like that. With like this general idea of respecting not just our own customers, but our customers' customers, our customers' users, and make that as good as possible. Cool.
Did you find your outro?
I did. Chat while I find it.
Does it include our upcoming events?
I think no. So you should talk about the upcoming events, and I'll find my script here.
Okay. Okay. So for upcoming events, Jason did mention our Slack community. If you have not joined our Slack community, I did put a link in the chat to join it. You do have to have at least a free membership level on our site to access the invite link. But on Tuesday, the 26th at 10 a.m. Eastern, we will be having a community co-working hour. So this is when you can come to a session on Google Meet face-to-face with Kim Coleman and I, and we will co-work together. So if that's you working on your membership site, or you just want people in your ear while you're talking and doing your day job, that is what that hour is for. Last co-working hour that we had, Kim and I gave user one-on-one help with the membership site on different aspects, and really had like some special hand-holding kind of walkthroughs, and Kim shared her screen and all that. So really valuable time. Yeah. And then August 29th, right before my birthday, we're going to have a Coding with Sam. Maybe I'll wear a party hat. So with Coding with Sam, we mentioned that earlier in this stream as well. I will be coding one of our code recipes to show you how you can customize something on your site. Again, the Slack community is where you find out the day prior of what I will be coding. That is not public information. In fact, Christy will plan what I code, and I just show up on Friday and code it. I am not in the process of planning. So that's always interesting. And then our very last Built on Values open office hours with Jason will be September 4th, 11 a.m. Eastern, same time, same place. And we'll be talking about our open value.
Yeah.
I'll bring that. Yeah.
That should be a fun one. Yeah, we make open source software. We're also open and transparent about our business. Maybe I'll come with like some stats. Folks like to see how we're doing, and we can share some stats, what's like running this business in the case of being open. And we can dig into the details of like, what do we mean by open source? How is that different from the WordPress way? Actually, this is an old presentation. We removed that WordPress way from our core values because WordPress is not as open source as we are. And so we're actually more open than they are. And that it's just, there's some WordPress drama. Let's get into it. Like the WordPress way is in flux. No one knows what it is. It's like the Matt Mullenweg way, and we don't agree with that. There's a so yeah, we're gonna be talking about that stuff on September 4th. What does it mean open source? How do we navigate it in the business? How does that reflect in our decisions? And then it comes up again in how we operate inside and who we work with. I did find my outro. But also I'm excited. Birthday edition of Coding with Sam. That sounds fun.
And it's a big birthday too. Number 30.
30th.
So,
yeah, it's
a big birthday.
You should get Christy to do that one and go somewhere.
Christy did the last one. I went on. That was my I know I went last week on vacation, but that was like my birthday celebration.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you had it early. That's good.
I had it a little early.
And I got my outro here, so I'll take this. Let me try to do this. Are you ready to take the next step and get paid with your own membership business? I mean, I think you must. You just watched an hour and 5 or 10 minutes of me talking about how we have respect in our business. Did you know that the fastest way for you to launch and scale your membership site is with our premium plans at paidmembershipspro.com. And that's how you're going to get that premium support that I was just demoing for you. And it's not just the best platform to manage your members and charge access for your content. That part's free. It's a team of experts and a supportive community behind it all. And we're all here to help you succeed. We've made it as affordable as possible to get started. So if you're a new customer, you'll notice when you're navigating our site, there's a big 50% off discount to get started. And we're basically trying to make it as affordable as possible to get in there. Most sites who pay for a premium membership renew later at the full price, and that's because they're running a successful membership site and making money. And so, you have a whole year to figure it out with our team. Basically, if you like our YouTube channel and you're running a profitable membership business, if that's going to be a priority for you, I highly encourage you to click the link in the description of this video. Maybe we make it hover if you're watching the VOD, or go to paidmembershipspro.com, learn more about our paid services, join. Either way, if you've enjoyed this video, we look forward to seeing you next week for Coding with Sam and our future videos, open office hours, and in the free community, stuff like that. That's fun, but take a look at our paid content. It's going to help you.
That was awesome.
No.
Now
okay,
we need to
we'll
record
put
it. That way it happens on every single video.
Okay,
I
yeah,
can
recorded
on
version.
StreamYard, I can set an outro video to where when I hit end stream, it'll play it.
Yeah, I think some version of that is, yeah, that would be good.
Awesome.
We
Thank
pitch.
you, everybody.
All right.
We will see you
Bye-bye.
on the next Coding with Sam.